Hello, and welcome to the 2017 CIRA Trailblazers Award and Recognition Luncheon. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to celebrate with us today. This is our 4th annual luncheon in which we recognize those in our community who have made significant contributions and sacrificed with excellence in paving the way. There will be hosts and hostesses coming around each table offering the purchase of raffle tickets. And these tickets will help us raise money for our Champions of Change Scholarship Awards. There are also envelopes on each table if you would like to give that way. Please make sure, if you haven't done already, give the hostess or host your business cards because there will be 2 drawings today. Thank you. Dolores is there holding it up right now. There is a cash bar, so please help yourself. Again, we would like to say thank you so very much for being our honored guest at this event. Thank you and enjoy. At this time, we would like to have Bobby Noggle come up for our opening prayer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Each one of us that are here today and other days and days to come, when we get out of bed in the morning, each one of us has our daily routine, whatever our hands find to do. Whether we're realtors, loan officers, or grandparents, whatever the case might be. And this is what I want to say to each one of you, including myself, before I do the dinner grace. In all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct our path. So when you start your day, just acknowledge the Lord, whatever your decision making that you have to do, include him in that. And I promise you, it will be better. Let us bow our heads for the dinner grace. Lord, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this food that we're about to receive. We thank you for the ones that prepared it to bless their hands as well. And let it be a nourishment to our own bodies. Lord, if there's anything that will be harmful to us, we ask that you take it out in your name. Amen. Amen.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon,
I'll be
George.
introducing our mistress of ceremony, Miss Donna Shealy. She wears many hats. She currently can be heard Saturdays on AM 1310, The Light, on her show Saturday Praise from 2 to 7 p.m. and then on Sundays on 106.7 WTLC from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Donna was also an academic dean at Tinley Collegiate Academy and All-Girls Junior High School this past school year. She is a model and actor and has appeared in local and national commercials and films. She is an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Mu Omega Chapter. Donna and her husband, Michael, are also the local pastors of World Changers Church here in Indianapolis, a satellite ministry. Donna and Michael have been married for 24 years and have 2 sons. David, who just finished his 3rd year of college at Georgia State University, and Daniel, who recently graduated from high school last week and will be attending Indiana State University. So please give a warm welcome for Ms. Donna Shealy.
Hello, everyone. Okay, this is directional. Okay. All right. Hi. Welcome. I know you guys have food in your mouth, but okay. You can talk back to me. So glad to be here again. I believe this is the 4th year that I've hosted this, so I'm so excited to be here with you all again. Want to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsors. We have Fairway, Salem Bank, U.S. Union Savings Bank, and MyBoard. Our silver sponsors are Key Bank, Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana, Old National Bank, MB Financial Bank, BMO, the National Bank of Indianapolis, and the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. Bronze sponsors are Chicago Title, Keystone Home Inspections, Mike Klein at State Farm, and HGRS. Thanks to all of our sponsors for this year's 2017 CIRA Trailblazer Award and Recognition Luncheon. At this time, we're going to have a greeting from John Hall, who is the Indianapolis Field Office Director. Let's greet him as he comes.
Thank you. You do such a marvelous job. Greetings on behalf of the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Office here in Indiana. Secretary Ben Carson kicked off the month of June with our theme this year, Find Your Place in the New Era of Home Ownership. And we all have a kind of a cloudy remembrance of 2005, 2008, when the market began to shift to a different direction. And so I think all of us today are looking at a market and a client that is very strong in terms of the credit piece and very understanding of the responsibilities that it takes to do home ownership. In the HUD history, just very brief, our FHA product did not start off in 1934 being very customer friendly to those people of color. But over the last 50 plus years, FHA has made a huge impact on home ownership. There's over 40 million homeowners, first-time homeowners, that are insured through FHA. African-American homeowners are at a 47% pocket within FHA of utilizing that for home ownership. Latinos, Hispanics are close to the 50% clip. Last year, FHA did almost 245 billion, on 1.2 million home loans in order to increase that whole piece. It was critical. I happened to be at a dinner last night where there was a first-time home buyer, Elba, who was from the Dominican Republic. She came to the United States, moved to St. Louis, married, and was in an extremely abusive relationship. She moved to Indiana with 3 children, no job, and no money. And in 5 years being here in Indiana, they celebrated her along with 2 or 3 or 4 other families this morning as being a first-time home buyer. That is the dream that we have. Yes. She has 3 children, and so now the stability and the wealth building tool that she has can carry her far into the future. So I commend each one of you and those 2017 Trailblazers. I know Sandra, I know Beverly, I know Joyce, and all those previous Trailblazers who've made a difference. I want to thank each one of you and continue to work hard to make Indiana a neighborhood of homeowners and stability and future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to John Hall. I want to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure that you purchase your tickets for the raffle. It is going for a great cause. It is for the Scholarship Champions of Change Scholarship. So make sure that you purchase your tickets if you haven't already for the raffle. I believe they're going around now, and you can buy tickets from one of the hostesses. Also, we want to make sure you have your business card in the bag, in the back. We have a couple of prizes that we'll be drawing from in the back. We have some really nice prizes. So you want to make sure that your business card is in the basket. I think they're going around. She's coming around with 2 little red bags. So make sure that you get that in. All right, we're going to move on and get to our keynote speaker. Her name is Amy Nelson. She is our keynote speaker for today. She's such a lovely person, great personality. I love her so much. Amy Nelson began as the first executive director of the FHCCI in October 2011. She has worked in fair housing nonprofit organizations since 1997. From December 1997 to September 2009, she was the executive director of the Fair Housing of the Dakotas, serving North and South Dakota. People actually live there. The FHD had a number of groundbreaking cases addressing housing discrimination against those with disabilities and families with children and sexual harassment against women. From October 2009 to September 2011, Amy worked as the Director of Systemic Investigations and Enforcement at Housing Opportunities Made Equal, or HOME, of Richmond, Virginia, which served the Commonwealth of Virginia. Her work there primarily focused on addressing systemic lending discrimination against minorities, rental discrimination against those with disabilities, and discriminatory advertising. Prior to her work in housing, she worked in nonprofit management in Washington, D.C. Amy is active in her community, including a current member of the Board of Directors of the National Fair Housing Alliance, a member of the Indianapolis Continuum of Care, COC, a member of the Indianapolis GIPC Race and Cultural Relations Leadership Network, a member of the Concerned Clergy of Indianapolis, a member of the Indianapolis Great Places Vitality Committee, a board member of the Indiana Association for Community Economic Development, a member of the Indianapolis Community Development Coalition, a member of the Central Indiana Realtist Association, and a member of the Indiana Affordable Housing Association. She is also the 2015 recipient of the Central Indiana Realtist Association Best of the Best Award. Amy received a Bachelor's of Science degree in International Business and Political Science from Minnesota State University, and received her Master of Business Administration from Everett College in Danville, Virginia. Let's please welcome the very busy Amy Nelson.
Right there that we'll be talking about here in just a few minutes. So thank you, Donna. Anytime those long bios get read, you have to cringe just a little bit with them. But it is so wonderful. It's a wonderful pleasure to be invited to speak with you today. I've been so pleased to see the growth of the Central Indiana Realtist Association, which was actually formed around the same time as the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana. So we've been brethren trying to build our organizations together. And I am incredibly honored to be part of an organization that honors those trailblazers who broke down barriers and confronted discrimination head-on, like CIRA does. So my name is Amy Nelson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana. For those who don't know, the center works to eliminate housing discrimination and ensure equal housing opportunities for all. Now let me start off first by saying that I sincerely appreciate CIRA's commitment to the quality of life of the unserved and the underserved by promoting home ownership and providing real estate services. We need a group like CIRA active in our community to speak out on the history of disinvestment and past discrimination that so many neighborhoods of color and persons tackling poverty have experienced. Now, why is this all important? Why do we need CIRA active in our community? What do we do at the Fair Housing Center? Well, whether your home is an efficiency apartment, a mobile home, a condominium, a farm, a 7,000 square foot dream overlooking a river, your home is where you go to escape the world. It's where you should feel most safe and secure. It's where you rest, relax, rejuvenate for another tough day. Maybe you're working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet and need some time for yourself. Maybe it's that quiet place you go to enjoy your hobbies or do yard work if you have that yard. Maybe it's that small 1-bedroom you got which shows for the first time in your life that you're out on your own and ready to be independent. Maybe it's that place you're raising your children and it's filled with their smiles and their laughter. Everyone deserves that home. And when you can't have that home, and when you can't feel safe and secure in your home, it not only makes it unlivable, but it impacts your self-worth, which also impacts your ability to maintain relationships and employment. You never have that safe place to go. And when the sole reason you are not allowed to have that home of your choice is due to things about yourself that you cannot control, the impact upon you as a person is even more emotional and long-lasting. Those things out of our control are what we call, under fair housing, protected class statuses. Federal and Indiana state laws state that it is unlawful to discriminate against somebody in a housing-related transaction due to somebody's race, color, religion, national origin, gender, presence of children, or disability. My organization works to stop these types of discrimination in housing. The previous administration, under President Obama, made a point of stating a child's course in history should not be determined by the zip code she's born in. Yet for far too many, their zip code does determine their very future. That's the impact of housing. About 15% of Americans live at or below the federally defined poverty level, which, if you don't know, is $24,000 a year for a family of four. For children, it's 20% nationally. Indianapolis saw a 41% increase in the percentage of children living in poverty from 2005 to 2013. Only 4 major cities were worse than us on that. According to the Indiana Institute for Working Families, a report they just released yesterday, despite higher labor force participation rates, 30% of Black Hoosier women live below the poverty line, despite the fact they're working more jobs, compared to only 13% of white women and 15% for all women in Indiana. This ratio puts Indiana at the bottom third of the country. And I certainly don't need to tell the people in this room that the foreclosure crisis overwhelmingly impacted the very people that CIRA seeks to serve. Here in Indy and other major cities, we saw persons of color targeted through discriminatory housing practices, predatory terms, and outright differential treatment. The results? Blocks of empty homes. The national homeownership rate fell to 63% in 2016, the lowest yearly average in 50 years. But the biggest thing holding down homeownership rate could be racial inequality. The rate among white Americans is more than 30 percentage points higher than among Black Americans. One recent study found that 72% of all housing growth looking from 2015 to 2025 will be groups other than whites purchasing homes. So if these same groups face hurdles in buying and maintaining homes, it could harm the overall growth and stability of the housing market. Despite the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act in 1968 and programs requiring communities that receive federal funds to increase access to quality, affordable housing, many communities in the U.S., including Indianapolis, remain segregated by race and income. Often these majority-minority communities lack access to good schools, grocery stores, public parks with swimming pools. Did anybody see the paper today? We're at the very bottom of 100 major cities when it comes to access to parks. Transportation that has ease of use, and to the kinds of opportunities necessary to help residents rise out of poverty. It can be little things, like an advertisement posted last week here in town for a house for rent that said Chinese preferred. It can be suggestions and comments to a person with a disability asking if they can take care of themselves or live on their own. Or it can be small things, like someone writing on their evaluation at our April Fair Housing Conference asking, why so many Black speakers? According to a report released a few months ago on the impact of segregation, Indianapolis was the 6th highest of 100 major cities when it came to economic segregation, and 17th highest when it came to racial segregation. To quote that report, everyone deserves an opportunity to earn a living, and the economy is better off when everyone participates in it. Over generations, policies and practices have set up barriers, ultimately leading to where people of different races and income live separately from one another. Under President Obama's administration, regulations were issued called the Affirmatively Brethren Fair Housing Laws. That was the government's response to these previous government actions that that promoted and legalized segregation and redlining, a way to try to right those previous wrongs. Now, despite what some will try to make you believe, diversity and inclusion, including the creation and maintenance of affordable housing opportunities, does not decrease property values or lead to more crime. Diverse communities lead to a better understanding of others, which leads to improved neighborhoods. We fear what we do not know. Segregation devastates, not only for those not allowed into the segregated community, but also those in those communities who are never exposed to the positives of differences. Discrimination also impacts our elders. Many are not allowed to age in place in the housing of their choice, forced unnecessarily into nursing homes when they do not want to go there. I saw a saying a few years ago that I loved. A young man was driving a beat-up pickup truck in my home state, and he had a bumper sticker, and he stated, "You look at me and only see our differences. I look at you and see how we're all the same." That really stuck with me. Now I hear in my line of work, discrimination doesn't happen here in Indiana. I hear that all the time. People surprised when I throw out statistics and numbers, or when we file a case and there's a press release on that. I hear that groups like mine blow isolated events out of proportion. I hear it was all a misunderstanding by the victim, that they couldn't take a joke, shouldn't be so sensitive. I hear that if we would only have contacted that person first, that would solve everything. Those are the same people who would also refuse to acknowledge the harm and ignore the impact of discriminatory actions. In 2013, we released a report based on testing of rates of rental-based discrimination here in town, in the Indianapolis metro area. In areas in Indianapolis that were predominantly white, otherwise qualified African Americans encountered discrimination 82% of the time. Hispanics and Latinos encountered it 70% of the time. That report is 4 years old now. Later this summer, we'll be releasing another report where we found a 76% discrimination rate against African Americans. Not much of a difference on that. Let's not put our fears and conditions on people just because they might be different. We see it here far too often in the work from those that we've helped. It's the young single mom who was screamed at and brought to tears by a prospective landlord because she had a child and just didn't happen to be married. It's a Latino on the east side of town targeted with racial slurs when a new property manager came in. It's the young women who are harassed by maintenance through jokes and comments about their body. It's the family with a person with a disability in their home told they would be a liability if they rented to them. It includes persons of color targeted here in Indianapolis through predatory rent-to-own transactions. It's the numerous families with children across Indiana that we've helped because of hard feet per bedroom rules or restrictive occupancy standards. It's the person with a disability who couldn't find an affordable, accessible housing because there isn't enough of it and had to go into a nursing home. It's a landlord in an old case I had who sent out a holiday letter to all their tenants complaining about having to rent to foreigners. It's the mom with an autistic son who's told you can't rent an apartment because he needs an animal. It's a property that wouldn't let kids play outside. And if they did, their parents were threatened with eviction. And it's the heartbreak of a woman with stage 4 bone cancer that we helped who needed to go into hospice to literally allow herself to die in the most peaceful and caring setting, and instead had to spend the last months of her life fighting to get out of her lease to get into that care. Those actions were all unlawful, and they were just a few of the cases I've had in my career here in Indiana and elsewhere. I hear, well, they can just find something else. There's a lot of housing out there. No, they can't just find something else, and they shouldn't have to. They say persons targeted or impacted by discrimination should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, like they did growing up. However, they forget the differences in circumstances. They ignore the privilege that has been extended. They are unwilling to recognize the racial history of this country, which kept persons of color, women, and those with disabilities from accessing rental housing, credit, and opportunities to build equity and wealth. I have a map in my office of the city of Indianapolis showing that neighborhoods in the 1930s were racially redlined, those same neighborhoods to this day are the ones still suffering all these years later from disinvestment. Let's not forget that until 1968, racial and religious discrimination was legal. Women could be denied housing until 1974. People with disabilities and families with children were not protected until 1988. That's in the vast majority of the lifetimes of the people in this room. And we still lack protections for marital status, age, receipt of public assistance, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Please know, there are a number of incredible housing providers out there, many whom I've worked with or that are involved in CIRA. People who've established themselves as being fair and following laws. These same people realize that when discrimination happens, it impacts the industry and causes a black eye for all of them. You know how this works. That bad experience, you'll tell a whole bunch more people about than you will the good experience. However, housing discrimination of any form is emotional. It's being told by someone you're not good enough. As a college professor who was denied housing for being black once explained, it's your whole life on a piece of paper. You give that paper to prospective landlord and they crumple it up and throw it away. And you spend the next years of your life trying to straighten out those creases on that paper, trying to get it back to what it was before. It's being told it doesn't matter how smart you are, how hard you work, what you've overcome in your life, any of that. That's why being able to choose your home free of discrimination is so important. If you can afford it and you're willing to be a good neighbor, you should not be stopped because of your discrimination. It's your fundamental right to have adequate, safe, affordable housing to you. We all need and deserve that. Last year, we had over 900 unique housing contacts to our office, of which over 170 included allegations of housing discrimination. We have been seeing improvement in a variety of areas, but I fear change is coming, and not in a good way. For instance, for many years, we had not seen many advertisements that contained blatant discriminatory language. However, that looks to be reemerging. Last year, we saw someone in Noblesville posting a sign at his business that said, "I love Mexican people, but they don't belong in the U.S. No Mexicans on my property." Last year in Southport, there was a sign posted in front of a house for sale stating "No more chin," targeting the Burmese community. In 2015, a case reached resolution in Cincinnati where a landlord had posted a whites-only sign at the complex pool because a 10-year-old biracial girl had used the pool. Some are very set in their ways. They feel they shouldn't have to provide housing just because somebody might have kids with disabilities. They don't want to rent to people who don't look like them. They have a right to have those bigoted views, but they don't have a right to bring it into their business setting. That's unlawful, that's the law, and organizations like mine will enforce it. Now, I've spoken to you here about a lot of barriers, but there are incredible opportunities for us to work together, to fight discrimination, to make our city, our state, and our country a better place. Just this week in Indiana, we were confronted with hate on the south side of Indianapolis. On Monday, a billboard was posted targeting Muslims in our community with hate speech. A billboard. There is nothing unlawful about it. It's the anonymous person's right from out of state who purchased the billboard and refuses to be named free speech right to use that form of hate speech. But that doesn't mean that we as a community can't use our own free speech rights and respond and say, we will not target people, we will not tolerate people being targeted this way. You will not divide us and make us fear each other. As my good friend Rima Shahid of the Muslim Alliance of Indiana recently said, it perpetuates hate, it perpetuates misconceptions about religion, and it makes our neighbors think we believe things that simply aren't true. Be the best in our community. First, help us find and stop housing discrimination. If you're in this industry and want to do the right thing and follow the law, we want to give you the training to do it. If you're a consumer, we want you to have the basic understanding of your rights, so if something simply doesn't feel right, you will know and ask questions about it. As I mentioned previously, blatant forms of discrimination are not as prevalent. It's discrimination with a smile, being told units are not available when they are, being quoted different deposit or rental rates than others, or not being offered incentives just because of your protected class status. When that happens, it's hard to identify that you were treated differently because you don't know how somebody else was treated. But trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, report it. Even though most of you in this room are housing providers, you are also housing consumers. Discrimination can happen to you. All of us in this room are protected in multiple ways under fair housing laws. Be a support system for those who speak up. It can be an incredibly intimidating process for those who speak up. They don't know when they speak up if evidence of a violation can be proven under law. They don't know if by speaking up they may be at risk of losing their housing. They don't know if anyone will believe them. They don't know if they have the time, energy, and strength to take on what could be a 2 to 3 year process in court to get their justice on it. And don't believe the hype. There's a severe lack of affordable, accessible, safe, and decent housing in our community as well as statewide. We get several calls a month regarding housing providers who've turned off electricity, confiscated property, or turned off water rather than going through the legal process. We hear from moms with 3 or 4 kids who can't find large enough rentals because the market is only targeting young professionals with 1 to 2 bedroom units. And even if they can find a 3 or 4 bedroom, they can't afford it. Or it's in an area that they might be trying to get out of. We now have rent-to-own transactions coming back, taking hold again, targeting credit-starved neighborhoods with impossible terms, knowing people are desperate for housing that may not even be habitable to live in. Help us fight for affordable housing options in both rental and home ownership. It won't impact your property values coming to your neighborhood. Long-term studies have shown, even by the National Association of Realtors, it has no impact. If that property is well managed, it will be a benefit to your neighborhood. And then help us advocate for additional protections and laws. I've talked about the forms of unlawful housing discrimination, but there are also forms of lawful housing discrimination that significantly impact people's ability to find housing. Not only has our state refused to provide housing discrimination protections for otherwise qualified candidates due to their use of a Section 8 voucher, or because they are gay, or due to their gender identity, but then there's our state that has also refused to pass a hate crime law. For those who do not know, Indiana is one of only 5 states that has not passed a hate crime law. Because of this, a prosecutor could only obtain a misdemeanor vandalism charge when an African-American family in Greenwood had some white teenagers put a burning cross in their yard. A vandalism charge. Because of our lack of state law, we are reliant upon the federal government when such crimes occur, and not every state can be made into a federal charge. Because of our lack of state law, police departments are not required to report hate crimes to federal agencies. And we need to change that. Indiana cannot remain one of only 5 states without a hate crime law. Hate crimes not only impact the victim targeted, but the group targeted and the overall community with their crime. The impact is tremendous. That African-American family targeted with the burning cross is told African Americans aren't welcome in our white neighborhoods. The Muslims targeted with a billboard of hate are told you need to stay silent and out of sight. The transgender woman targeted with violence or threats is told you and your friends need to hide and not be who you are. A few months ago, the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana launched the Central Indiana Alliance Against Hate. We are working to build a strong, diverse alliance of nonprofits, businesses, religious organizations, and student groups to come together and take a stand against hate. Join us. Become an alliance member. There is no cost. Your organization simply needs to commit that you will work with others to confront and combat hate. Maybe you aren't in a position to commit your organization to Alliance, to join one of our working groups with specific goals to advance knowledge on them. At our table at the back are forms to become Alliance members or to sign up for working groups. And I brought yard signs. I mean, come on. Suggested donation, $10, but if you don't got $10, I'll give it to you. You can put it in your office or in your yard. I brought yard signs. Now, at this point in my life, I've been working in fair housing for about 20 years. And I very much enjoy the work I do. Honestly, though, I go home a lot of days and wonder if I'm changing anything. I go home and feel that I'm just not doing enough. There aren't enough hours in the day. I'm not able to attend every event and meeting I want to. I'm behind, feels like I'm always running up against deadlines. And then there's that one day that makes it all worthwhile. That day you know you are doing something to improve this world. One of those days I'm going to share with you, a day I'll never forget. That day when I called a woman who I'd been working with for close to 3 years, who had originally been living in a shelter, recovering from addiction, found housing, and was beginning to turn her life around. She had lost custody of her kids because of addiction, but because she had found housing, had gotten back into college, she was able to get weekend custody of her children back. That same woman was then sexually harassed, assaulted, and tormented by the landlord she thought she could trust in one of the worst cases of discrimination I've had in my career. That landlord degraded her because he knew she was desperate to keep her housing because she wanted to keep seeing her kids. She told me that was the first person she had told everything to about what he'd done to her. Horrible, horrible things. And he kept telling her no one was going to believe her over him. Her calling us and our subsequent investigation found 27 other women who had been sexually harassed in some of the most degrading of ways by this landlord. Women he specifically targeted coming out of shelters. On the day I remember so well, I got to call her to tell her we'd received rulings in her favor. Her case was going to settle now because of those rulings. And it all started because one woman spoke up. And I got to tell her not only did I believe her, as I told her through all the years of that case, but so did a judge, that what she had done was stop this person from doing it again to another person trying to restart their life, that he was going to have to go out of business. After everything she'd gone through in her life, she had the strength to stand up and say, this isn't going to keep happening. Those are the days we work for in fair housing. We helped even that playing field because everyone deserves a home. Thank you for having me here today. Please consider joining us and help to make sure that everyone has that home. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Amy. That was awesome. We're fired up now. We're going to line up at the table, get your yard sign. We're not playing. Thank you, Amy. No, seriously, that was really, really good. Very informative, and we really thank you for speaking today. At this time, last year, our speaker was Pastor Mike Jones. Raise your hand if you were here at last year's function. Yes. Pastor Mike Jones was my co-worker. He worked with me at Radio 1. And I can even go back farther than that. I started off with David Brown at Radio 1 as his producer. He passed away suddenly. Mike Jones took his place. He passed away suddenly. So this was very, very heartbreaking for us at the station. But one of the last events he spoke was this one. It was in June of last year that he spoke here, and he passed away suddenly in August. So at this time, we're going to watch a video in memory of Pastor Jones and some snippets from what he spoke on last year, and then we will have a moment of silence to remember him.
Spirit, I want to talk to you for a few minutes about the ministry you're in. And many of you may look back at me and say, no, I'm not in ministry, I'm in banking. I'm not in ministry, I'm in real estate. No, I want to talk to you about the ministry that you are in. And the need for you to be successful in your ministry is so vital because the ministry that you do will help us to build something that we can only build certain ways. In the book of Jeremiah, you will discover, if you read the 29th chapter, at the time when the people of Israel had been taken captivity, they were living under Nebuchadnezzar's rule in Babylon, and it was not good. They were living under oppression, they were living as basically prisoners of war, and they were miserable. And under their oppression, some false prophets rose up and said, don't worry about it. You're not going to be here long. Don't put down any roots, don't buy anything, just rent from the people who are here. Just serve quietly and don't do anything to develop yourselves because you're not going to be here long. In fact, take the short route out. In fact, maybe a subprime mortgage would be right for you. Buy a house. Buy a house that you cannot afford. With a no income declaration mortgage. Go ahead and have candy-colored eyes and buy $1 million house with a $10,000 income, because we're going to take as much money as we can from you on your interest-only mortgage until you foreclose, and then we'll sell it to your brother or your sister or the rest of your family, thus extracting what little wealth you have while leaving you in a position of poverty. So Jeremiah said, here's what you do if you want to survive. He said, buy land and build houses. Right here. That's the first thing he tells them to do. Buy land and build a house. Then he says to them, once you build your house, plant a garden. Then he says, since you're going to be here, find a woman or a man you love, get married, and raise a family. Then build a community, Jeremiah tells them. And if you can do those 4 things over the course of these generations, by the time you leave, you will be wealthy. Your ministry is to tell people the truth.
Amen.
You're not going to get rich because you bought a starter home.
That's right.
You are not going to become a millionaire in real estate overnight with no money down. You cannot buy some late night course at 3 o'clock in the morning from someone who knows nothing about real estate for real, who is making their money selling you a program that does not actually exist. You must instead listen to the real prophets who are sitting among us, whose job it is to tell people who are struggling, if you really want to be successful, the first thing I can tell you is you may only be the start. The real wealth that you want to build may not actually accrue for you. But if you can start today, maybe 4 generations later, your family can be wealthy. So here's what I want to say to you. You all are in the ministry of trying to tell people, if you want to get yourself together, start by owning something that genuinely appreciates. Get yourself a piece of property. But that's not the whole of the ministry. But here's where the challenge comes. You can't just get a person in a house and then walk away. One of the reasons, Chief Hype, that some of our neighborhoods are so bad is because so many of our people don't own anything where they live. And if you don't own it, you don't have a vested interest in taking care of it. Part of your ministry is to tell people, I don't need you to just own it so you can rent it out, own it so you can make a few quick bucks and flip it. I need you to own it and then plant a garden, because if you want to change the community, you have to invest in the community, and you can't just own the house, you have to plant a garden. That's what home ownership brings, the responsibility not only of making your neighborhood beautiful to look at, but making it safe for your children to play in. And it's part of your job as you help us to find homes to instruct us that home ownership is much more than paying the mortgage. It is planting your garden. It is raising your family. And then you got to stay for a minute. You need to stay long enough for it to make sense to build a community. Build what you can afford. Build what you can pay for. Just get started. I want to suggest to you all that the real ministry of you as realtists and as experts and as those who work in real estate on all levels is not simply to close the next deal. Today, I am affirming your call to ministry. Whether you are a banker who establishes loans for those trying to buy houses, help people to get what they can afford and teach them how to manage their resources well, so that they can not just get it, so that they can keep it.
All right, very good. Also want to note that at that occasion I had to read his bio, and on the bio, I knew he was a pastor, I knew he was a radio host. I did not know that he was an author and that he has produced music as well and put out CDs. And so because of that event, right after that, he gave me his books, he gave me his CDs, and it was just something I did not know. During this program today, the music you've been hearing has been his music. So the music that was on was Pastor Mike Jones, and you'll hear that as we dismiss as well. So let's just have a quick moment of silence to remember him.